This morning, Jesus was making some points to me in regards to what we let into our body and into our spirit and into our mind. And some of it was because of a conversation I had really early this morning with a man that's looking to purchase something through me in the real estate business that we kind of struck off going, I guess, in a different way as far as our conversation is concerned, because he is seeking for God. And so our conversations have gotten very deep. And this morning, bright and early, he had texted me, and so I texted him back. And the gist of our conversation was really about his religious beliefs versus what God's really after. And we shared some different stories, one of which is important to understand or hear. And it was about a old car of his that he donated to, I guess, a school that has a shop. And it needed some work, and so the school did some work on it and everything. Anyways, the guy that kind of heads up that department, the teacher, God put it on his heart to keep the car instead of selling it or doing whatever with it. And so here it is 15 years or whatever it's been later, and Thomas comes back into the U.S. and somehow hooks up with this guy, and the guy gives him his car back and says, well, God told me to keep it for you. And there's a very humbling experience for both of them from the sounds of it. And so I was able to use that to make a point to Thomas as far as how God works. And the long and short is, God doesn't expect us to just go out and start doing work for him like that. He puts it on our heart what he expects. If we were to do things the way the Christian religions tell us to do it, they would have told this guy, oh, sell it and take the money and give it to the poor, or give it to our church, or do something like that with it. And the whole power of what God's after would have been missed, because that car would have been gone, and this guy wouldn't have understood God any better than he would have before, which was zero. And Thomas wouldn't have started to come to an understanding of what God expects. God works in mysterious ways, and really they're not mysterious, it's just different to us because we let the wrong things come into our body. And God was showing me that as well. It's easier to see from a physical standpoint than it is spiritual. But the long and short is there's an onslaught by Satan, the devil, to destroy us. And he does it physically, spiritually, and mentally. And the spiritual and the mental kind of go together hand in hand, but so does the physical aspect, which is a part of it. The physical aspect is controlled by the mental or spiritual side. But if we look at the trash that's going into our food these days, it's ridiculous. It's been pasteurized, homogenized. Our water has different things added to it, like chlorine and fluoride, which are killers of the body. The food has high fructose corn syrup and all kinds of additives to it. Or they just completely remake the food. It's been GMO modified or full of hormones or something. Basically everything that is being consumed these days, if you go through a place like Walmart, is trash. It's not even food, and it's killing us. And it don't kill us immediately. If everybody died the next day from eating this stuff, everybody quit eating it, because most people are scared of dying. So it's a slow death. And then on top of it, they convince us that, okay, well, you have these problems, you need to go see a doctor, and the doctor is putting more trash in you with the different medications and drugs that they put into you. It's the same with us spiritually. There's an onslaught going on through our religions, through television, through radio and the music we listen to, our conversations with friends, Facebook, everything. Everything coming at us is about stuff other than things of God. And some of it seems right and good and just and everything, but it's not. So the long and short is that this onslaught's coming from every single direction, and it's a slow little poison that, if you hear the same thing over and over and over, eventually you start to believe it. And that's the problem, is we think it's okay, and we think it's actually what's bad is good and what's good is bad. And it says in the Bible very clear that that's the way it is, that people will think what God thinks is good is actually bad. And I see it all the time. And when you tell people that and try to explain to them, they don't want to believe you because they believe the lie, the deception. And Paul preached about that as well, that, in those times they will believe the deception and the lie, and they will take false teachings and making it their truth. And he said very clear, from such people stay away. It's interesting because the church, the religions, are always preaching, don't forsake the assembly. But verses like the other one where it says, when they're preaching false doctrine and bad things and believing the lie, stay away from them. They don't want to preach that aspect of it because it condemns them, even though they don't understand what they're preaching is not truth. So there's just many things like that where the truth is twisted and we don't even know it. So we have to come to the point where we really understand the truth and we seek the truth in Jesus and get rid of all the pollution that's coming into us from the physical aspect of the foods and water and even the air we breathe to the spiritual aspect of the stuff we're allowing into our mind, which goes completely against the teachings of God. Yesterday, one last little point, my wife and I were in Tijuana, which just seems to be growing leaps and bounds. I mean, the number of people and the traffic and stuff is getting terrible. And here we are, we're driving on this road, and the traffic's backed up in both directions for miles and miles. And it's hot. Here it is November 2nd, and it's 80-some degrees in this valley. And you can smell the pollution from the cars. And all these people are there, dealing with this traffic and dealing with this pollution and everything else. And then we get back to our home here on the coast, and it's 70 degrees, just perfect. Beautiful, beautiful night. Beautiful sunset, fresh air coming off the ocean, no traffic, no, a lot of people to deal with. And it's just so much more peaceful instead of stressful. And I mentioned that to my wife, and she already knows that because we talked about it 100 other times, if not 1,000 other times. But the long and short is that those reminders of, okay, it can be like this if you choose to live in a place like that, or it can be like what you have here if you choose to live in this place. And it's the same with God. It's a choice. Do we choose to live by His statutes and His ways, or do we choose to live by the ways of the world and pollute ourselves with things of the world, whether it's religions or the crap on television or the bad music that they listen to these days, as well as the bad food that we put into our system and the bad water, and breathing pollution in places like where we were in Tijuana? Or do we seek first the kingdom of God and its righteousness and live according to His perfect ways? Peace.